This is the type of case where the death penalty is going to have to be really looked at. If he's eligible for the death penalty, the district attorney's office is going to go for the death penalty. There's some cases just that they've got to get the worst punishment. They've got to get the worst punishment. 6 people, one night, several different scenes. You've heard the allegations. They're about as bad as it gets.
Says she actually saw her child die right in front of her other 2 children. A heartbreak no mother should ever have to experience.
I can't help but to feel like, I could have did more. But I tried to do all I, can to help her, to save her. But I couldn't. And that's weighing heavy on my heart because, it might have been more. What if I did this and what if I did that? It would have been, a better outcome. But I just don't know. I tried.
On a quiet road in West Point, Mississippi, a pickup truck turned onto Blake Road, carrying a man investigators say had already taken lives and was not finished yet. Inside the home he was driving toward was a mother and her children, including 7-year-old Makayla Gwyness, a little girl who had no way of knowing that the safety of her home was about to be shattered. According to authorities, the man who walked through that door was not a stranger, but family, and within moments, what should have been a place of protection became the scene of an unthinkable loss. Makayla would be shot and killed inside that house, her life ending in a way no child ever should, while her mother and siblings were there to witness the unimaginable. In the aftermath, investigators would reveal details so disturbing they stunned even seasoned law enforcement officers. Details that would leave a community asking how something so violent could reach someone so young, so innocent, and so completely removed from whatever anger or turmoil was unfolding that night. But as heartbreaking as Makayla's story is, this house on Blake Road was not where the violence began, and it was not where it ended. What happened to her was part of a wider shooting spree that unfolded across multiple locations, leaving 6 people dead, tearing through one family after another, and transforming an entire county into a series of active crime scenes within the span of just a few hours. To understand how Makayla's life was taken, investigators say you have to rewind the clock and follow the path of the suspect from the very beginning, tracing each stop, each decision, and each life lost along the way. Investigators say that by the time the suspect arrived at Makayla's home on Blake Road, the night was already unfolding into something far darker than anyone inside that house could have imagined. The man at the door was someone the family recognized, someone connected by blood, and that familiarity made what happened next even more devastating. Authorities allege he forced his way inside while armed, turning a quiet family evening into a moment of terror that would permanently change everyone who survived it. Inside the home were Makayla's mother and her 3 children, all caught in a situation no parent ever prepares for and no child should ever have to experience. Law enforcement has confirmed that the suspect allegedly attempted to essay someone inside the house, and news reports later identified that person as Makayla. In those moments, fear and confusion took over the home as the family tried desperately to protect one another, while an armed relative suddenly turned their place of safety into a scene of terror. In the middle of that terror, investigators say Makayla was shot in the head, her life taken instantly, right there in the presence of the people who loved her most. As if Makayla's death were not horrific enough, investigators later revealed another detail that shook even seasoned officers. After Makayla was killed, the suspect allegedly pressed a gun to the head of another small child inside the house. For reasons that remain unknown, the trigger was never pulled. That child survived, but the trauma of having a weapon held to their head in the moments after losing a sibling is something that will likely follow them for the rest of their life. At some point after that, investigators say the suspect left the house, disappearing back into the night, leaving behind a family shattered beyond words and a home forever marked by violence. But what made this case even more disturbing was the realization that Makayla's murder was not an isolated act of rage. It was part of a larger spree that had already begun before he arrived and would continue after he left. According to authorities, earlier that evening, the suspect allegedly went to a home on David Hill Road, where 3 members of his own family lived. Inside that house, investigators say his father, his uncle, and his brother were all shot in the head and killed. Law enforcement believes those killings happened first, setting off a chain of events that would spiral across multiple locations in Clay County within a matter of hours. After those initial murders, investigators say the suspect took his brother's pickup truck and drove to Blake Road, carrying with him whatever anger, instability, or intent fueled what happened next. And even after Makayla's life was taken, the violence did not stop there. After killing Makayla, the suspect allegedly drove to another home on Salome Griffith Road, where investigators later found signs of forced entry and 2 more victims inside. Those men, identified as Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley, were both shot and killed, one of them a local pastor known in the community. With that final stop, the total number of lives lost that night reached 6. The suspect was eventually located and taken into custody. Investigators identified the suspect as Derica Moore, a 24-year-old who, according to authorities, had no known criminal history and was not on law enforcement's radar prior to that night, a fact that only deepened the confusion and disbelief surrounding what investigators say he allegedly did. As the reality of what happened began to sink in, shock spread far beyond the crime scenes themselves, leaving an entire community struggling to understand what could drive someone to carry out such violence, especially against his own family. People searched for explanations that did not exist, asking whether there had been conflicts, arguments, or long-standing issues with the adults whose lives were taken, even though no disagreement could ever justify what unfolded that night.
This one has to be the most disturbing case that has ever happened in this community. This is just something that investigators in the community say that they're just struggling to grasp and understand how this level of violence can happen in their own backyard. This violent rampage happened on Friday night. This all happened in several locations near West Point. The area is in the Griffith and Cedar Bluff communities. 24-year-old Derica Moore is first accused of killing 3 relatives inside of a home on David Hill Road. The victims were essentially executed, all of them shot in the head. The sheriff says Moore killed his father, Glenn Moore, his brother, Quentin Moore, and then his uncle, Willie Gewins. Moore then stole a truck and drove to another home on Blake Road. It was there, deputies say, Moore forced his way inside. The sheriff says Moore tried to sexually assault someone in that home, and then he shot and killed, allegedly, a 7-year-old girl. That girl was Moore's cousin. Moore took off traveling to a third location on Salome Griffith Road. When investigators arrived there, they found the stolen truck hidden behind the house, signs of forced entry, and then 2 more victims inside, 2 men shot in the head. The victims were identified as Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley. One of them was a well-known pastor. Moore was caught and taken into custody at a roadblock. He is charged with first-degree murder. What investigators still don't know, and what continues to just trouble this community, is why.
But those questions only grow heavier when the focus returns to Makayla. Even if there were tensions with grown people, even if there were unresolved problems or anger aimed at others, there is no explanation for why that violence reached a 7-year-old child. Makayla had no role in any conflict, no involvement in adult issues, and no ability to defend herself from what investigators say happened inside that home. Her death stripped away any attempt to rationalize the events of that night, leaving only grief and disbelief in its place. For Makayla's mother, the shock of that night quickly turned into a pain so deep it is almost impossible to put into words. In the days that followed, she found herself replaying every moment, questioning what more she could have done, even though she was placed in an impossible situation with no safe choices and no way to stop what happened. Like so many parents who endure unimaginable loss, she carried a weight of guilt that did not belong to her, struggling to make sense of a night no parent should ever have to survive. Eventually, she gathered the strength to speak publicly, sharing her grief in a Facebook post that offered a raw and heartbreaking glimpse into what losing Makayla has done to her heart. She wrote, "I'm finally getting enough strength to even make this post. I never thought I would be going through this, or even making funeral arrangements for one of my children, especially my baby girl." Her words reflected a shock that had not yet settled. As she admitted, "I have so many questions and so many things I don't understand. My heart is shattered into pieces, and I'm hurting." She went on to describe the joy her daughter brought into her life, writing, "Keela brought so much joy to my life and so many others. She was the sweetest girl in the world, and I am not okay." Even in the middle of that heartbreak, Lashana spoke about leaning on her faith, saying, "But I know a God that's going to strengthen us through all of this." She thanked those who reached out, adding, "I've seen all the calls, text, and inboxes, and they are greatly appreciated. Please keep the prayers coming, because we most definitely need them." Asking for time to grieve, she closed her message with a goodbye. "No parent should ever have to write. Please give me time to process all of this and continue to pray for my family. Rest well, my sweet girl." Her grief is not quiet or distant. It is raw, constant, and overwhelming, shaped by the memory of watching her child's life end and knowing that nothing will ever bring her back. As the investigation continues and the legal process moves forward, Makayla's mother and loved ones are left to navigate a world that feels permanently altered, holding on to faith, prayer, and one another as the only way forward. In the midst of all the unanswered questions, one truth remains clear to those who knew her and to those hearing her story now. Makayla's life mattered, and the loss of a child like her leaves a wound that no explanation could ever heal. At the same time, the grief stretches far beyond one home, as families mourn the loss of a father, a brother, an uncle, and two other men whose lives were also taken that night, each leaving behind loved ones struggling to make sense of how so much violence could unfold so quickly. Entire families were changed forever, and a close-knit community was left carrying a collective sorrow, trying to honor every life lost while grappling with the painful reality that one night destroyed generations of connection, love, and trust.
But on January the 9th, 2026, at approximately 6:56 p.m., Clay County E911 received a call in regards to gunshot victims at 299 Blake Road in Cedar Bluff, which is going to be in the western part of Clay County. Deputies arrived on the scene at 7:03 p.m. The investigators revealed the following: that on January the 9th, Derek Moore, as you see here on the screen to my left, black male age 24, allegedly shot and killed Glenn Moore, age 67, Willie Ed Gewins, 55, and Quentin Moore, 33, at a residence located at 123 David Hill, Cedar Bluff, Mississippi. Upon arrival, deputies discovered the gunshot wounds to the head. The men were pronounced deceased by Clay County Medical Examiner. Moore then allegedly stole a Ford F-150, aluminum in color, belonging to the deceased brother, Quentin Moore. It is believed that Derek Moore then traveled to 299 Blake Road, where we initially got the first 911 call. Once at that residence on Blake Road, Moore forced his way into the home and attempted to commit a sexual battery while armed with a handgun. At some point, Moore, in front of witnesses, allegedly shot and killed a 7-year-old female at the home. Upon arrival, deputies discovered the 7-year-old had suffered from an apparent gunshot wound to the head. The 7-year-old was pronounced deceased by Clay County Medical Examiner Alvin Carter. It is believed that Moore then fled to the residence on Blake Road in the stolen truck, and at some point traveling to 1965 Siloam Griffin Road in the western part of Clay County. During the investigations, Clay County investigators were directed to this Griffin Road residence by a 911 call. Upon arrival, investigators discovered the stolen truck hidden behind the house. While at the home, Clay County investigators discovered apparent forced entry to the rear of the residence. This led to the discovery of two deceased males. They were identified as Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley from Columbus. Both men appeared to have suffered gunshot wounds to the head and were pronounced deceased at the scene by a Clay County Medical Examiner. At this point, law enforcement established a perimeter. Moore was later taken into custody without incident at the intersection of Pine Grove Road and Joe Myers Road in western Clay County. He was taken in custody by members of the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Park Service, U.S. Marshals, and other law enforcement agencies. Once in custody, investigators discovered that the vehicle Moore was operating had allegedly been stolen from the residence on Siloam Griffin Road, where the two males were discovered in the house. Moore is currently charged with first-degree murder. That charge will be upgraded here shortly to capital murder, with additional murder charges forthcoming with conjunction with the District Attorney's Office. Clay County investigators are coordinating with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations, the Mississippi Criminal Laboratory, and the Clay County Medical Officers and the District Attorney's Office. A preliminary hearing right now is scheduled for Monday, January the 12th, 2026 at the Clay County Court Complex. Again, that is subject to change. This safe apprehension of our suspect was only possible due to the assistance of our local, state, and federal partners who responded quickly to our community. I will say at this point, we do not know a motive for these acts. We are continuing to work with all our partners to complete a full and thorough investigation. Again, this is ongoing, and information subject to change. We're asking anybody out in the public that has any additional information to please contact the Sheriff's Office or the Golden Triangle Crime Stoppers with this. We wanted to do say that we all lift our hearts in prayer for the victims and families. Again, this is really, really shaking our community. And for me, almost 30 years in this is one of the toughest ones we had to work. So again, our job right now is to thoroughly investigate, make sure that we get our district attorney's office everything that they need to prosecute. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our district attorney, Mr. Scott Cologne.
Thank you, Sheriff. I want to reiterate what the Sheriff said. All of our hearts and prayers go out to the victims and the survivors of this really tragic, horrific spree of murders last night. There's no words that can console them, but just want to let them know they're in our hearts and our prayers, and that community is in our hearts and prayers. I do want to give a huge shout out to the Clay County Sheriff's Department and the different law enforcement agencies that assisted in the apprehension of this suspect and the investigation into his allegedly, at this point, horrific crimes. I have to tell you, when the sheriff briefed me about what had happened thus far last night, it really shook me, because this is the worst one I've seen in 10 years. It's the worst one. I mean, 6 people, innocent lives taken, just horrific. And as the sheriff said, these charges are going to be upgraded to capital murder. They're going to probably be more than one count, to be honest with you. And I do want to say this. I talked to Trina Davidson this morning, and she asked me, I didn't suggest it, she asked me, could she be the special prosecutor on this case? It worked very well, and it's working very well with the Oasis shooting, and we're really making great progress to going to trial on that case. And she did such an outstanding job on that with working with Investigator Knowles, that this morning she asked me, could she be special prosecutor on this case no matter what judge gets it, because it was so personal to her. And I of course, agreed to let her do that. So she will be working with Investigator Knowles and the Clay County Sheriff's Department to lead this prosecution. And I will also say that, this is the type of case where the death penalty is going to have to be really looked at. I mean, and when I say that, there are certain legal processes that we have to go through. We have to continue the investigation. You have to go through mitigation experts. There's going to be mental evaluations done. But after all that's said and done, if he's eligible for the death penalty, the district attorney's office is going to go for the death penalty. You got to have some cases. Typically I would consult with the victims and wait down the line. But there's some cases just that they've got to get the worst punishment. They've got to get the worst punishment. 6 people, one night, several different scenes. You've heard the allegations. They're about as bad as it gets. If he's eligible, we're going to go for the death penalty and let a jury decide his fate. So just want to again reiterate, thanks so much, Sheriff.
The fourth scene to be where we took the suspect in custody at. Again, it was what we believe to be the stolen car. Also, evidence and stuff recovered from the vehicle. So again, that was worked by MBI. So that's considered a crime scene.
And so was he caught at a roadblock, you said, or?
Yes, ma'am. It was a safety checkpoint. Again, law enforcement had set up the entire area out there. If you moved, you had to go through a safety checkpoint last night. He came through one, and that's where he was taken into custody by some of our state and federal officials.
So do you believe this was a random shooting, or was it targeted?
Again, we don't know. That's motive. We can't. I'll put it like this. This guy has not been on our radar. We had not had any reports, anything prior leading up to this. So what his state of mind was, what was going on with him, that's part of the investigation right now. So again, remember, this is really raw. We've been out all night processing crime scenes. Again, we got 4 different scenes. That takes time. It's intensive for my guys. The crime lab actually didn't finish up till this morning. So our guys are back in at it today, starting to go through the information. So when I tell y'all, you know, this is just preliminary, that's exactly what it is right now. There is some stuff that could change. Hopefully we'll have more details. You know, personally, I don't know what kind of motive you could have to kill a 7-year-old. It's just none out there that you can explain to me why this would happen. But again, as I say, and it shook me pretty hard too. But right now, like I said, my focus is the resolve of solving this case for our victims and being there for these families and doing what we can to support them. So again, I asked our communities, our churches, I know that some of our local churches are getting together, some prayer groups, it's going to be lifting them up. So again, any other questions?
Do you know the relationships between the deceased and the suspect?
Well, I do at the first location, which is going to be on the yes, right here. So, yep. So we do know that the Glenn Moore, I'm sorry. Father. Yeah. So the Glenn Moore is going to be the father. Okay. The Willie Ed Gewins is going to be the uncle. Yes, sir. And the Quentin Moore is going to be the brother to the suspect. So all 3 family members. I will say that the one on Blake Road is also a family member that he went to. Yes. Okay.
And what about the 2 Bradley?
We don't know on that one yet. We know he was a pastor out there at the church. But again, other than a pastor relationship, that's all we know of now. But again, this is still ongoing. So we hope to get some more information on that.
You talked about how this is on the worst ones you guys have seen. Are you giving like mental health counseling and training to your guys as well as those of the community?
Well, we will at some point. I mean, this is always available for us, but I'm going to tell you right now, we are so zeroed in on working the case. You know, when everything's over and done with, yeah, we'll sit back and at that point in time. But we do make sure that it's available. It's tough. It's tough on us because all of us has got families, and when you look at this, you know, it breaks your heart. So again, that's part of my job is to make sure that my staff stays mentally and physically fit. But right now, I'm so proud of them because, you know, they focused on what's got to be done. We're thinking about the victims of this, and we want to make sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's because any mistakes on our part can jeopardize what our district attorney's office does. And we take pride in what we do because it's my job to make sure that I serve the people to the best of my ability, and therefore I've got some of the best staff it is out there.
And what was the name of that church that the pastor
Apostolic. Huh? Apostolic. It's the Apostolic Church. It used to be Apostolic Drive. I guess they changed that name something. It's the Apostolic Church on Siloam Griffin Road.
Sheriff, this is the second mass shooting in Clay County in less than 2 years. I know they're not related, but what do you say to, I guess, the community, the families, just knowing that, you know, this has happened, you know, in this community twice in the last 2 years?
Well, unfortunately, it's happened all over the country. And that's what we see, and we're put in a position where we have to be reactive. You know, if we've got people on our radar that we can deal with on the front side, but when you got individuals that just show up and start shooting because they have disagreements or they don't like something for whatever reason, it's hard for law enforcement to stay ahead of that. And in this case right here, again, this is reactive for us in this situation because this guy went on our radar. I mean, this is family members that he went after, and nobody has reported anything to us. So, you know, again, it can happen anywhere. And the best thing we can do is just stay on our toes and get out here and promote, you know, this anti-gun violence. It's just too much of it going on. We're seeing it. Guns are readily accessible to anybody. That's the other thing, you know, we check and see where he got the weapons from. Were they his weapons? Did they belong to somebody else? Did he steal them? So it's questions like that we're digging in right now. And again, it just takes time because there's so many questions. And it just takes us time to focus in because when we get an answer, we want to make sure we've got the correct answer and the one answer that we can give our district attorney's office that can be used in this case.
You said weapons, plural. How many did you use?
We don't know. That's part we don't know. That's where the Mississippi Crime Lab comes in. They'll do ballistic testing and all that for us and get back to us. So again, we don't know that.
Does it appear to be more than one weapon?
Again, we don't know. Understand when the Mississippi Crime Lab comes in, they take control of the scene. They do the processing. Our guys is there to assist them. So right now we're waiting on preliminary information from the crime, but we don't know when that'll be.
Conversation should this tragedy force about violence prevention in communities here in Mississippi, in your cities and towns, and across the U.S. really?
So what was the first part of the question?
What conversation should this tragedy force, to prevent gun violence really?
Well, again, it's a problem all across the country, and everybody's trying to come up with a suitable answer for it. As of yet, nobody has. So I don't know. Again, a situation like this, you've got a family member that attacks his own family. So what the legal for? Whatever the reason is behind it, we're hoping that we'll find out. Again, you got mental health, you got drugs, you got all kind of stuff that contribute to an act of violence taking place. And again, like you said, we've seen it here in our community several times. Again, we get put in a position where we're reactive. We want to be more proactive, getting out here, talking, hey, put the guns down. But again, you got to find out the reasoning, what's going on with the violence.
Going back to Moore, the suspect, when do you guys plan on having a bond hearing or him appearing before a judge? Like, what's the next steps?
Well, as of right now, we have what we call a preliminary hearing scheduled for this coming Monday at the Clay County Complex. We don't have a time set just yet. It's going to be depending on availability of our prosecutors and our judges. But right now, we're looking at Monday, which will give the investigators time to come together on all the charges, have these charges upgraded when we go in front of the judge for any type of potential bail here.
What do you tell people who may have heard this in Clay County and maybe still scared to just go outside, even though you guys have said that Mr. Moore is in custody? Like, what do you tell them?
Well, I mean, it's natural to have fear. I mean, when you get these type of reports of something happening, again, this is our smaller community over here in the area this happened is a lot of families out there. So when you hear something like this, fear is automatically what you're going to do because, again, we see it on the news all the time of violence happening all across our country. So I understand. We understand the fear. But, again, we just ask our citizens, when you have something like this going on, just let us deal with it. Let us deal with the problems.
Sheriff, beyond the 6 fatalities that you reported on today, were there any additional injuries or property damage reported?
No other injuries that's been reported. Again, this is ongoing. I can't tell you that we won't get a call in a few minutes, going somewhere else. But as of right now, just these 6 fatalities is what we've been made aware of. This is what we're investigating.
And I understand everything's preliminary, but are you and your investigators confident it's just one shooter?
As of now, all the evidence that we have, witnesses that we have, it leads us to believe just the one shooter at this point in time.
I have a question for Scott, DA. With this being such a large potential case,
right?
The Oasis shooting also being a large potential case, I guess how much resources will your attorney have for both of these? Take on both of these large cases?
She'll have endless resources. She'll have the resources she needs. She's very competent. The district is very blessed to have Trina working for us. And she did a great job with the Oasis. They're very different, though. I do want to point out, those are very different situations. The Oasis is about a conflict resolution situation that we've got to really root out at a young age, because when they get to a nightclub and there's lack of self-control, that's a different problem. This situation, I'm like with the sheriff. Somebody killing their dad, their brother, their uncle in a short period of time, a 7-year-old who's related to him. I mean, I can't get an answer to that one. There's no. It's hard to preempt that without some previous reports or warnings or something to law enforcement. But she's gonna have everything she needs, and she works so well with the Clay County Sheriff's Department that we're going to be in a very strong position. I'm very confident of that. And like I said, if it is eligible, there are some legal stuff we got to go through. But if it's eligible, you can't have a case like this and not seek the highest punishment under Mississippi law. It's just, if you don't do it in this situation, then basically you're not going to do it. So this is just fits that criteria where it has to happen if eligible.
How many capital murder charges are you going after?
Well, Sheriff and I were talking about it. It's, they brought one to my attention that I hadn't thought about. It's 3 or more people is capital murder. Mm-hmm. Killing a 7-year-old, child abuse is capital murder. And if there was a burglary, that could be another capital murder charge. So,
theft of the truck?
Or broken into the house and theft of a truck, I think. And then attempted sexual assault. That's captured with the child abuse. So, it's the worst I've seen.
So you're looking at about 3 or 4?
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on that. At least 2 confidently. The third one, I'm feeling really good about it. But yeah, it's the worst I've seen. I never had. I don't know if many across the state, Sheriff or Chief Deputy, where you've had multiple capital murder charges. It's very rare that you get multiple capital murder charges,
especially your own family members.
Yeah, this is. I probably say even nationally, this is a very, very rare situation, and it's horrific. It's about as bad as it gets. Thank you.
When you say sexual assault, do you know which victim?
Well, right now the sexual assault is coming from the one on Blake Road right now. So, again, hopefully we can release some more information, but as of right now, that's pretty much about all that we can give y'all. Hopefully by Monday, when we get ready for arraignment, the investigators in the DA's office looks at the rest of the charges, get everything upgraded. Hopefully we can give y'all more detail concerning each charge at that point.
Sheriff, have you talked to any surviving family members, and what are they saying in their thoughts right now?
Well, briefly, last night I talked to a bunch of them, and it's just right now it's overwhelmed grief. It's just hard to describe. I know how I felt, and just to be there looking at these family members trying to, first of all, grieving the loss of their loved one, and then finding out who it was that committed this, another family member. It was overwhelming to everybody. So, it was really hard to have conversation other than prayers with everybody out there. So, again, this family, to lose this many family members, at one setting, it's just hard to imagine. So that's the reason I'm saying they definitely need our prayers because it's hard for them to get through this. But right now, we'll say that the remains of these individuals are being sent to the Mississippi Crime Lab for autopsy. At some point in time, we'll get that results back too.
Just one quick clarifying question. You said he was arrested at the intersection of Pine and what other road?
Joe Myers, which is going to be about probably less than a half a mile from the crime scene on Blake Road.
And pardon me if I misunderstood, the attempted sexual battery, was that on the 7-year-old or was that somebody else that was there that he attempted that on?
Well, I won't release that just yet, but that's the charge is going to stem from that resident. So we're still getting statements, and so we're just a little bit not quite ready yet to confirm which one.
Was there anybody at the house with the 7-year-old?
It was. Her mother and some siblings. I will add this, and I didn't say initially, but according to the statements, after the 7-year-old was violently murdered, a weapon was stuck to the head of a small child in the house also. We're trying to determine whether the gun misfired or whether he did not shoot the child. That part we don't know. That's something else we're looking at. That's how violent it was. To shoot one and stick a gun to another one, who I think is going to be younger than the 7-year-old. So there was several, I think a total of 3 kids in the house along with the mom. So even with the tragedy, it's a blessing that he didn't do more damage than what he did before he got out of there.
So clarifying question, that stolen vehicle, he drove that to all 3 locations? Or just...
No. So the location on the Siloam Griffin Road where the father, the brother, and the uncle were killed, he allegedly took the truck of the deceased brother and drove to Blake Road. After he committed the crime at Blake Road, he left there and drove to Siloam Griffin Road, where he allegedly murdered the two individuals, broke into the house and murdered them two individuals, and then he took one of their vehicles. That's what he was apprehended in on Blake and Joe Myers Road later on.
So he stole two vehicles?
Yes. We believe it's two. Like I said, he had possession of the deceased brother's truck at Blake, and then again, we found it behind the house on the side of Griffin Road.
You had no prior run-ins with him for
None.
any reason?
None. It was not on our radar for anything.
Have you called out to any of the homes that had been, the crime scenes that have been called out to any of those for anything?
No, again, I talked to the family out there at length last night, and they just never would have believed that he would be capable of doing anything like this. So again, not on our radar. This is reactive. There's nothing that could have been proactive on our part of it. Again, our heart just hurt. We hurt.
So as far as I know, he just snapped.
Well, again, investigators are having conversations with him. So again, we may not never know the motive. I'm hoping that we'll find out, but it'd have to be something drastic to commit this type of crime. At this point in time, he'll be appointed an attorney if he don't have one, also in a potential bail hearing. But my understanding, on capital murder, there is no bond. So really, you'd be looking at probably getting an attorney appointed. Okay? We thank y'all for coming, and again, we just ask that y'all keep our community in your prayers.
Are you asking the public for any more information, any additional information that you still need from the public?
Yes, we're still asking the public. We're reaching out there to them. If you've got any information, please contact us, Golden Triangle Crime Stoppers. Any information you got, we take it all in and we sort through it and see whether it can help us or not.
And Sheriff, do y'all know if the child that was killed, was he related to any of them, or she was related to any of the other ones that were killed, the brother or anything?
Yes, this is actually going to be the suspect's second cousin. The house that he broke into was his first cousin, the mom. So that would have made the child his second cousin. So again, you're looking at 4 family members that this man killed. And again, the association of the pastor and his brother, we haven't been able to determine that just yet. That's part of the investigation. Again, this pastor is from Columbus. We know that he come over on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays and stayed on the grounds of the church up there. So why he went there at this point, we don't know, but we are actively looking for answers for that.
Do you know the church that he pastored, if the family attended that church?
It's my understanding, yes, the family did attend that church. Some of the members did attend. So the pastor apparently was well known to them out there in that area.
One more quick thing on the time frame. Y'all first got the call at 6:56?
Yes.
What time was he apprehended?
At 11:24. Yeah, it was somewhere right there. It was before 11:30, right around 11:24 when he was taken into custody without incident. Okay. We thank y'all for coming. Again, hopefully we'll have some more information from y'all. We want to be as transparent as we can. But again, some of the information that we just got to verify, and we just need time to work it because, again, there's 4 crime scenes. It takes time to go through this, and we're working with multiple agencies, including our crime lab, NBI, so everybody's got to be on the same page to make sure that, again, the facts that we provide isn't true facts. And we can't afford no slip-ups because whatever information we got in facts, our district attorney, he's got to have it prosecuted in court. So we got to make sure we're factual. Again, thank y'all for coming. I'm glad you give me some.